Man, I'm really happy with this tractor. For as cheap as this thing was, man, this old stuff, you cannot kill it. Wow, famous last words. Do I smell interesting? I think you smell interesting too sometimes. That's what happened to my crimpers. Oh, disgusting. All right, well, that's one mystery solved. So that right back there is the front crankshaft seal, and I'm pretty sure that's what's leaking. There's a ton of oil in here, and I think it got flung off of that pulley like all over the side rails of this tractor, and that's the disgusting mess we saw yesterday. So I'm pretty tempted to just change this and put it all back together, but I'm not actually going to, because I'm not actually sure that is where it's leaking. I think it is, but I don't know that for sure. And the other thing is, the rest of the seals and gaskets and everything up here are probably, 60 years old or whatever, so even if they're not leaking now, there's no guarantees they're not going to start. And we're already this far into the tractor, it's already here in the shop, and so we might as well just keep going and replace not only that, but the gasket that's behind here and the gasket that's behind here. Oh shoot, I guess it's only like two things. So I got good news and two pieces of bad news. The good news is I was able to get the front cover removed, which is mainly what we were trying to do. The bad news is that in order to do so, I had to removify this distributor housing. So we're gonna have to retime this engine, which is something I was really hoping not to have to mess with. And the other bad news is that if we look down here, we're gonna have to take the oil pan off as well. The other bad news is there's that old nasty cracked, probably leaking, what looks like an original quart gasket on that oil pan. That's the front of the oil pan there. So that means we're gonna have to take the oil pan off and replace all that as well. And I just changed the oil in this. So I mean, it seriously has like 2 hours on it. Oh well. We're gonna do the ugly farmer thing and like pour the oil into a clean jug and dump it back in when we're done. However, more good news. If we look in here, this engine is pretty much immaculate on the inside. I mean, I was expecting to see tons of sludge and crud and disgusting filth in here, but it's super clean. In fact, if we look, we can still see what's probably original paint. I don't think they even used that Gliptol coating that they used on newer but older than modern engines. Yeah, that's probably original paint from the Alice Chalmers factory that's in there. And it looks really clean on the inside. Look, you can even see the timing mark. I'm really happy with that. I think this has definitely had regular oil changes, which likely contributes to the fact that it's, 60-something years old and it's still running. Well, as of yesterday. So, what do we have to do? Shoot. Well, I guess we'll take off the oil pan and try to clean up these gasket surfaces. This gasket for the front cover actually looked like it was doing pretty well. I have doubts this is leaking. I really think it was that front main seal, but I'm glad we took this all apart because that gasket, that oil pan gasket, does not have many more hours left on it. That's if it's not leaking now, which I think it is. what came out. It is a Victor 46026 seal, I believe. And going in is the Ameritech 152053 TAY, I think. Made in Taiwan. Alright, well, see what happens. I'm really not looking forward to having to lay down here and scrape that old gasket off with a razor blade, and it's gonna be like chunks of stuff falling on me and oil and whatnot. However, looking at the engine itself, it actually looks, you know, I'm no mechanic thief, but I'm really happy with this. I mean, look, you can still see the finish on the inside of this block. I mean, this thing for 60 years or whatever, and I don't know if it's been overhauled, but still, I mean, that's pretty much immaculate. There's no sludge in here. Camshaft looks nice. I don't see any like scoring on those journals or anything. And we can see the pistons, and if I can move around here just right. Look, we can still see the crosshatch on that sleeve after all these years. Wow. Man, I'm really happy with this tractor. For as cheap as this thing was, man, this old stuff, you cannot kill it. Well, famous last words. Oh, no way, I've been looking for these. I've been looking for these. That's what happened to my crimpers. Oh, disgusting. All right, well, that's one mystery solved. Good news and bad news. Good news is I got this pretty well buttoned up. I'm a little concerned about how well that oil pan is or isn't going to seal. I don't like the design of that at all. And I also don't like the design of this front crank pulley because there's this tapered bolt which kind of locks it in place, but this bolt is only a few thousandths of an inch smaller than the hole it goes into. So I think I probably spent a good hour getting this lined up, and I'm still not sure it's in there all the way, but that's about as good as I can get it. So hopefully that big cast iron pulley doesn't come flying off and kill someone. Fun stuff. Overall, I really like the tractor, but honestly, I think the Zetter's engine design, and not just because it's a diesel, I think the engine design is a lot better. It's certainly easier to work on. But whatever the case, I got it put back together. Mostly, I got the engine out of time. You know, unfortunately, knowing what I know now, I know I could have just left that bottom bolt in place and just taken out the top two, because as you can see, those run through to the front of the the front cover, which we had to take off. But I didn't know that at the time, so that's probably off a tooth or two. We'll see if it starts, and then if not, we'll just have to loosen those two bolts and spin that distributor around until it fires up. So that's the good news. The bad news is this is about as far as we can go now, because as with anything, the further into it you go, the more problems you're bound to find. You know, like for one example of this, I couldn't figure out why this side of the engine was wet, and also why the engine would never come up to temperature. Well, it probably won't come up to temperature because there's no thermostat in the thermostat housing. I don't know how well you guys can see down there. And the side of the engine's probably wet because there's holes in the thermostat housing. So, you know, whatever, at least we got to change out these other gaskets and whatnot too, and it's got a new rear front, yeah, that's it, a new front rear main seal, that's what it's got. So I've ordered some parts for this. I've ordered this new thermostat housing. It's nice you can still get stuff like this, brand new, you know, brand new aftermarket of course, but brand new aftermarket parts for a machine that's this old, and they really didn't make many of these. I think like 90,000 of them or whatever. You know, compared to cars, that's not really a whole lot, but of course these things last a lot longer. So I ordered a new one of those, and also I was looking at this and I got to thinking about this water pump. I'm not a water pump expert, but this is very, very stiff and through here. You know, it's better as you turn it, but there's a lot of resistance inside that thing. So I was thinking, since we already have it torn apart and the new water pump's not that expensive, I think I'd rather change this now than worry about it later. It doesn't seem like it has a bearing out, I guess I should say. I don't know if it's actually pumping anything though. So whatever the case, we gotta wait probably a week or so for that new casting to come in and this new water pump, and then I guess we will take it from there. The good news is that'll give this RTV plenty of time to cure, and hopefully this thing will hold oil. So, not quite as far as I wanted to get, but rule number one of working on anything is, of course, that stuff always takes longer than you expect, and it always costs more than you plan on. So, you know, if you go into things expecting that, it's not the end of the world, but whatever the case, I'd just like to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. Hopefully this will inspire you to go work out on some of your own projects, and have a good day, everyone. Cheers.